Before we get into the video, make sure you guys like, subscribe if you're new. Come on, what are you doing if you're not subbed to me by now? My content is fire, from Transformers news videos to stunt motions to reviews. We almost at 600 subs, so let's get there, people. My Instagram and TikTok are all linked down below. And, yeah, let's get straight to it. Okay, so, yesterday TFW dropped an article about the first Transformers 1986 movie, the first draft of it, write up by Chris McFeely. He did a Twitter thread, and this is from TF Nation, the little con, the Transformers con that they had a couple weeks ago. I remember seeing posts on Instagram. I have seen a couple little read-ups about it. I haven't read everything. Just to kind of get more of a raw reaction from me when I'm reading this stuff, and maybe for you guys too, for those of you who haven't read up on any of this yet, or if you guys have and you're just watching my video to see what I feel about this first draft of the movie. But we're just going to get right into it, the little write-up that TFW had here. So it's split up into 3 parts, so I'll just go straight into part 1. Last weekend, Jim Sorensen and I unveiled the never-before-seen first draft of Transformers the movie at TF Nation. Okay, so Twitter thread. It is not the year 2005. Our story begins an indeterminate amount of time in the near future as the Decepticons attack an Autobots steel mill. The Constructicons use ore stolen from the mill's carts to build siege towers. Oh, Siege! Transformers Siege, ha ha ha. No. But, okay, so it doesn't take place in the year 2005. That's interesting. The Decepticons attack an Autobot steel mill. Alright. So, maybe no Autobot base in this draft? I don't know. Defending the mill is the mighty Magnus who catches... Sorry, I had to delete some footage from my camera to keep recording. But anyway... Defending the mill is the mighty Magnus who catches Decepticon missiles and rounds in an iron bucket and hurls them back at the attackers. He's joined by the youthful Hot Rod, Tanker, the grizzled one-eyed old Sherman tank, Battlefield Medic RC, and Wheeljack. So this is interesting. We still have the same characters, but there's a new character called Tanker, which I did see some concept art or like fan art of it, and it's sort of... He sort of looks like Cup, but he's, I guess, an all-new character, so that's pretty cool. A trio of Decepticons combine into a cannon that unleashes blasts of fire snow, a napalm-like substance that badly wounds Tanker. Magnus heads out to take them down. Meanwhile, Optimus Prime is on the way with reinforcements and more fuel for the besieged heroes. He and the other Autobots ride in vehicle mode on flatbed cars towed by a freight train, crewed by their human allies, Colonel Rusty Steel and General Blaze. That's such a funny name, Colonel Rusty Steel, but G1 always had funny names for human characters, like, who was going to be named Sparkplug and Spike? But, yeah, this is very different, like, an opening first battle. There seems to be no Autobot City. There are bits and pieces that didn't make it to the final cut, but it's very different. Rusty is a wisecracking Indiana Jones type hero, while Blaze is a gruff Patton-style general. They and the Autobots are deliberately traveling by this unconventional method to make themselves into a target Megatron won't be able to resist. Interesting, okay. So definitely banking off the Indiana Jones hype back then, and the whole army tough guy type persona back in the 80s and stuff like that. So, alright, that's interesting. Predictably, Megatron's forces attack. Starscream tears up the tracks ahead of the train to try and stop it. But it turns out the train is actually an Autobot named Rails, who transforms from freight train to ultra-tech hover train and smashes Screamer out of his path. Is that Rails... I think I also saw fan art of this guy who turns into like the snake type thing. I don't know if I'm wrong, but I think there's images here at the bottom. No, so they didn't put any of the fan art in this post. Alright. Where did I leave off? Rails uses his flame breath, laser eyes, and massive body to crush and melt the cons in their siege towers. Meanwhile, Optimus and Megatron have their final showdown, which is functionally identical to the finished film. Okay, so the Optimus Prime versus Megatron fight is pretty much the same. Rails seems really cool. I want to see this guy in some canon, or even some fan stuff on YouTube for stop motions or any type of animation people do. Uh, he uses flame breath and laser eyes to crush and melt the cons. Alright. The defeated Decepticons depart for Cybertron. Rusty makes a plan. Ratchet and one group of bots will take the wounded Prime to headquarters, while Wheeljack and a second group build spacecraft to pursue the weakened cons. Gears grouses about a human taking charge. Oh, so Gears had a bit of a role in this first draft. Come on, I need my cranky Autobot to have more stuff to do in canon, people. If only we had Gears to do something. The defeated Decepticons depart for Cybertron. Okay. Alright. That's pretty cool. Wheeljack and the second group build a spacecraft to pursue the weakened cons. Very different. It's really all over the place, but it seems like it would have been fun to at least watch. I don't know how good it would have been story-wise, but the Decepticons return to Cybertron to enshrine the dying Megatron's life essence in an urn in the Hall of Heroes. However, before this can be done, they begin arguing over who will be the next leader. Alright, so they still kept that in the final draft. The argument erupts into a full-on fight during which the urn intended to hold Megatron's essence is destroyed. Megatron expires, and with nothing to contain it, his essence floats off into space to decompose to nothingness. A lot of more, I don't know if it's more spiritual type stuff, but it's like stuff that isn't as cool as just like Megatron just straight up getting reformatted into Galvatron and stuff. It's not a terrible idea, but it's definitely not as cool or as iconic as what we got, obviously. Ratchet's party of Autobots return to Autobot headquarters, which now encompasses the entire volcano, having become a huge complex where Autobots and humans work together. We meet Springer and computer programmer Ellen Prentice and her son Daniel. So Daniel wasn't even Spike's son. He had different parents, and he was with Springer, and Springer didn't even get introduced until later on into the movie. Daniel hero worships Rusty, but Ellen's not a fan of the Colonel. She'd much prefer Daniel focus on his studies. Meanwhile, the Autobots rush to treat Optimus. Tanker consoles Hot Rod, who is consumed with guilt over his role in Prime's wounding. So they did keep in the final that Hot Rod was sort of like, I don't want to say responsible, but like the launch pad for Optimus to be getting severely wounded, and Tanker in this case, or Cup, is sort of like his coach or like his older best friend to sort of help him through his grieving. Meanwhile, Megatron's essence drifts through space to the planet Unicron, a strange slab-shaped world covered in metallic crystalline scales and undulating trees and grass. Oh, this sort of reminds me of Earth being Unicron. Maybe this is where they got that idea from with Prime and the movies. Much more organic type Unicron here. Interesting. The Entity offers Megatron a new body and new power. If he will serve him, Megatron accepts and Galvatron is born. Okay, so they did do the whole Galvatron reformatting thing in this version. Alright. He sports a new insignia, and his body is also wreathed in the scales that cover Unicron. Back on Earth, Optimus Prime's wounds are declared fatal. Before he dies, he passes his life essence, called his Matrix, a small glowing Optimus made of pure light, to Magnus, who becomes the Autobots' new leader, Ultra Magnus. Okay, so... Alright. So the Matrix isn't a physical handheld thing. It's a mini Optimus spirit that floats into Magnus, which is just is just one word for his name, Magnus, and then he becomes the leader, Ultra Magnus. So no Rodimus Prime at all. Very, very different. Galvatron returns to Cybertron to reclaim leadership of the Decepticons. The light of the entity shines on the planet from across space, and all the other Decepticons are converted into larger, more powerful scale-covered forms. Wow, so pretty much like every Decepticon here gets reformatted. Or not reformatted, but gets like energy and powers from Unicron. That would have been pretty crazy, and maybe, I don't know if that would have been cooler to keep it in the final cut, but that is definitely something. The entity orders the Decepticons to travel to Earth and acquire the energy of the planet for him. They depart, but as they go, the entity's light expands to cover all of Cybertron. And Cybertron is destroyed? What? Oh my god. Collapsing in on itself and being sucked away across space through the beam of light for the entity to feed up upon. Under his breath, Galvatron vows revenge. That's where we ended Act 1 at TFN, and this is taking much longer to tweet than I thought. Okay. Yeah, this is a lot to type out for him. Cybertron gets destroyed. That is crazy for them to do. But obviously later on in other fictions and canon that did happen. Alright, so part 2. On Earth, the Autobots are preparing to pursue the Decepticons in the spaceships Wheeljack is building at Autobot HQ. Massive shields are built and dispatched to Earth's major cities to serve as defense in case of an attack while they're off planet. So much is going on in this thing. Very crazy. So many different things. So it seems like Earth is the main planet instead of Cybertron for the final battle. The description of the construction process is detailed and takes multiple pages. But when Galvatron and the entity-powered Decepticons arrive, they cut through the shields and Wheeljack spacecraft like butter, destroying them utterly. Wow. Alright. Overmatched, the Autobots are forced to abandon headquarters and scattered to Four Winds. A short time skip later, and the Decepticons have taken over. Rusty narrowly avoids to party of black Gestapo-like Decepticons searching for fugitives. Alrighty? I don't... This is just crazy. These cons are described as sweep party. Okay, so this is sort of where the sweeps develop. That is a party that conducts sweeps of an area. Future drafts will turn this descriptor into a proper name as the characters are developed into Scourge and his sweeps. Very, very, very out there. At an Autobot mountain hideout, Wheeljack and RC bring news that the Decepticons have constructed a cage around Earth that is draining the planet's energy and beaming it off into space to Unicron, but they don't know that yet, leaving Earth with only days to live. The camp is then discovered by the sweep party. The Autobots keep the cons busy so the humans can escape on a raft via a nearby river. Hound uses his holograms and Sideswipe and Sunstreaker bat the baddies with steel beams. So Hound, Sideswipe, and Sunstreaker had a role in this original version. Wow. When Magnus runs some Decepticons over, the script suggests a harvester with thresher blades or a gasoline truck with huge battering rams as possible alt modes for him. This is just so insane. The Autobots escape under cover of a smokescreen created by a bot named Chemico. So another new character. Alright, they couldn't just use smokescreen to do smokescreens. They had to create a whole new character to do this. Okay, Hot Rod and Tanker are sent to find other scattered bots to form a crew for a new mission into space to locate the Decepticons' mysterious new power source. This is crazy. Where did I leave off? A little later, Hot Rod and Tanker locate the huge Arnold Schwarzenegger-like Autobots Springer. This is definitely a sign of the times here. Arnold Schwarzenegger type Autobot. Springer in the desert and watch as he uses the leaping power for which he's named to take out multiple Decepticons solo. That's pretty cool. Springer is a solo Decepticon outer of Taker. Springer leads the pair to a nearby Autobot refinery to recruit more troops. They're attacked by Insecticons and more Decepticons on the way, but when they reach the refinery, help awaits in the form of the Dinobots and the refinery's resident Brainiac Mentlar. Who the heck is Mentlar? Okay, the Dinobots do have a role in this first draft, which is pretty cool. Mentlar, a large-headed Autobot scientist who turns into a radar truck. This reminds me of Perceptor's Generations toy back in 2010. Has invented an immunodestabilizer field that cuts the Decepticons off from Entity's power, allowing the Dinobots to send them packing. Okay. Unfortunately, the field's effectiveness is already wearing off. This will never be mentioned again. Okay. So Mentlar and the Dinobots, along with their high-speed advanced scout Blur, so there's Blur, a slow-talking Jimmy Stewart sort, agree to join the mission. So he's a slow talker in this. Alrighty, that's a change. Unfortunately, the field's effectiveness is already wearing off. Oh, I already read that part. Okay. The Autobots all regroup in an Arctic ice cage where Wheeljack and RC have been able to salvage a single spacecraft. Rusty will be going on the mission with bots and bids farewell to Daniel and Ellen, but then the Decepticons attack. What's happening here? In the chaos, Daniel and Ellen are forced to board the ship with Rusty, Magnus, Springer, Blur, and Mentlar as it blasts off. Hot Rod, Tinker, and the Dinobots fly alongside it. Wheeljack, RC, Blaze, and other bots continue the fight on Earth. I'm just now realizing I'm reading Wheeljack all throughout this thing. Wheeljack didn't just have like a 3-second cameo where he's laying there dead. He actually had a full-on main role in this, which is absolutely insane. The Decepticons tried to close the... Whoa, that was like a high-pitched voice I just did. The Decepticons tried to close the energy cage around the Autobots to prevent their escape, but Ultra Magnus does a barrel roll, literally, and they get away. The Entity provides Galvatron with a flat-top aircraft carrier spaceship to pursue them. This is just insane. Things get very long and rambly at this point. Briefly, Mentlar and Ellen compute the location of the Decepticon power source, tracking it to the Shadow Nebula. Mentlar provides the humans with exosuits, the Decepticons catch up to the bots, and our heroes split up. Hot Rod's group takes refuge on a nearby geological unstable asteroid, while Magnus's team keeps the Decepticons busy. Mentlar computes a plan. The Autobots blind the cons with flares, allowing them to slip away and join back up with Hot Rod's team on the asteroid. Woo! Okay, this is a long-winded sort of battle right here. A lot going on. Just like with a lot of this thing, there's a lot going on. Unfortunately, Laserbeak has been dispatched to follow Hot Rod's team, so Galvatron knows where the bots have done. The battle moves to the asteroid, during which a Decepticon bombing run flings Hot Rod's group off into space. Jeez. Then a galactic warp hurricane strikes, causing the Decepticons' carrier to crash into the asteroid. Magnus's group reluctantly takes the opportunity to escape. Galvatron emerges from the wreckage and believes all the bots are dead. This is where we end Act 2. So, final part here, Act 3. This is just all over the place. My brain is like going crazy just reading this. There's just so many ideas they're putting into this thing. It's insane. Absolutely craziness. And now the third and final part of the first draft. We open with familiar scenes. Hot Rod's group land on an alien moon. Rod rescues Tanker from a robot squid. Magnus' group makes it to the planet Unicron, but a brainwave tractor beam forces them to crash on its moon. The Entity summons Galvatron, but he ignores the call. Whoa. Whoa. In a variation of the universal greeting scene we all know, Hot Rod and Taker encounter and are captured by the Sharkticons. The creatures have also captured Sludge and Swoop, immobilizing them with sun sticks and begun taking bites out of Swoop. Rusty and Daniel practice using their exosuits. Ellen refuses to let Daniel go with Rusty, Mentlar and Blur to explore the moon. Mentlar removes a scale from the moon's surface to I just left my place to study. The entity senses its removal, making him aware the Autobots still live. My brain is going crazy reading this, as you could probably tell. This is like... My reaction to this is probably like, for you guys, is just like, oh my god, this dude looks so overwhelmed. This is so crazy. Furious that his summons was disobeyed, the entity tortures Galvatron from afar, forcing him to leave Earth for Unicron's moon to wipe the Autobots out. The Autobots on Earth rally and push back against the remaining Decepticons. RC and Wheeljack start to get along. Okay. This reminds me of, like, this might make the Rise of the Beast rumors, or like the leaked test screenings that I report on, maybe a bit more true, because RC and Wheeljack have a bit of a thing going on here in this movie, and it's rumored that this is also the case in Rise of the Beast. So I can't remember if that happened anywhere else in canon. This is just reminding me of the Rise of the Beast thing. The captive Hot Rod and Taker meet a fellow captive, the rock robot Granix, rector of Lithon, the planet of Marvel, last survivor of expedition to the alien moon. He will, of course, evolve to become not at all made of... What the heck? What is this? Like, just what is this? This just gets more and more just ridiculous. This is just insane. The Quintessons throw Granix to the Sharkticons, not into a water-filled pit as in the finished film, but into a gladiatorial arena. He's even given a stun stick so he has a fighting chance, but it still ends with him being swarmed and devoured. Oh boy. Oh boy. Hot-Rod notices that the Sharkticons use primitive sensors to differentiate between enemies and other Sharkticons, and comes up with a plan to blind those sensors using grease and lubricant from his and Tanker's bodies. Now that's a interesting way to do that. Alright. On Unicron's moon, the Autobots set a trap for the approaching Decepticons, setting up cardboard cutouts of themselves to lure the cons into range of explosive charges. Magnus instructs Rusty to make a break for safety with Springer, Daniel, and Ellen. Hot Rod and Tank are thrown to the Sharkticons. The plan to blind their sensors works, but the Quintessons, spindly beings with huge heads and mental powers, telekinetically make new Sharkticons out of scrap metal. Oh, wow. The Quintessons have a much bigger role in this, which is pretty crazy. Just as all seems lost, the Dinobots arrive. Grimlock has freed Sludge and Swoop. As they soon subdue the Sharkticons, Hot Rod forces the lead Quintesson to probe space with his mental powers for the location of Magnus's crew, and the team departs. On Unicron's moon, Magnus's team trips their trap. Rusty tries to help the Autobots fight. Rumble tries to force Daniel to watch as Dirge kills Ellen, but Daniel masters his exosuit and saves his mum. Chris McFeely is writing this, so from the cons, providing his independence to her. Springer, Rusty, and Ellen and Daniel reluctantly leave Magnus, Blur, and Mental to battle Galvatron. Did he mean Mentlar? And the other Decepticons. This escape route leads them through a strange fog bank to a dried out riverbed-like area where they are confronted by the Junkyards. So the Junkyards are in this first draft. This is cool. The Junkyards are an eccentric tribe of road warrior-style robots led by a Nazi helmet-wearing, sidearm-wielding, metal-adorned Wreck-Gar. Springer guides the humans and transforming their exosuits to flee from the strange newcomers. Alright, so the Junkyards did still have a role in this, which is pretty cool. The entity was built to a universal protector, but something went wrong. Wait, did I skip something? Oh, okay. Magnus, Blur, and Menlar are killed by the Decepticons. Sensing the presence of Optimus Prime's life force, Galvatron cuts Magnus open, removes Prime's matrix, and places it in a bottle-like pendant. He departs to renegotiate with the entity. So instead of the original characters dying, the new characters die, which is, I don't think Hasbro would like. And keep in mind, this was written in like 1984, so they didn't really realize what characters they wanted to keep and who was popular and who wasn't and stuff like that. So the Junkyards take Springer and the human prisoner, but Hot Rod's group arrives and diffuses the situation with the universal greeting. Ellen decodes a printout of data Wreck-Guard provides, revealing the entity's origin. I almost said orange. It was created by the Junkyards' ancestors. More crazy lore that just doesn't get explained in this. The entity was built to be a universal protector, but something went wrong and it became evil. The Junkyards had to live behind the veil of fog to be free of it. Fortunately, it does have a weak spot, but the script's missing a page, so we don't know what it is. Oh man, something lost in time. That kind of sucks. Even if it was very messy, I would love to know what the weak spot is, but whatever. Also, Grimlock befriends a Junkyard named Scrappo and teaches him that women are great and to respect them. We stan a woke king. This is absolutely ridiculous. Like, I get the message, and for back then, that's crazy that they even thought to include that, but this is... I don't understand life anymore. Galvatron attempts to break his contract with the entity by threatening to destroy the planet Unicron with a thermal charge. Unsurprisingly, the charge has no effect. Then the truth is revealed. The entity and the planet Unicron are one and the same being. Oh, man. Okay, alright. That's kind of cool. Thanks to the energy of Earth, the entity now has the power to transform to robot mode and break the orbit it has been trapped in for generations. The tree trunks and grass on the planet's surface are but hairs on the back of its colossal hands. Oh, the colossal hands! The entity heads for Earth to finish devouring it. The Dinobots and Scrappo strafe him while the others venture inside his body. Springer and Tanko battle his immune system of metallic leeches. Hot Rod and the humans head for the weak spot at his core. Alright, so this is sort of similar to how they took down... Well, not really, really similar, but you could see where they got their inspiration from later on down the line with scripts. Reaching the opening to the core, they find it is too small for any explosive. Hot Rod senses the weapon they need. Hot Rod he senses it, alright. The group returns to the surface to recover Optimus's matrix from Galvatron. He refuses and tries to destroy himself and the matrix. Alright, Galvatron, a little bit of a suicidal bot there, okay. Until Ellen, finally getting the hang of her exosuit, surprises everyone by kung-fuing the Decepticon. The Decepticon leader into submission, matrix in hand, the team returns to the core once more. Kung-fuing the Decepticon leader into submission. Okay, where Daniel, the only one small enough to fit through the opening, climbs in and opens the matrix. Optimus's life force destroys the entity from within, and Galvatron is sent to hurtling off into space on a piece of debris. Oh wow, okay, alright. Hot Rod takes charge of the Autobots and orders them to evacuate the entity's body, and our heroes all triumphantly return to the healed, restored Earth for a victory ceremony at the new Autobot headquarters. The end. Well, that was a crazy read. A lot of words spewing out of my mouth from reading this page. This was absolutely insane. I am glad we didn't get this straight off the bat. I mean, there's a lot of cool ideas, a lot of interesting things they could have explored with lore, maybe in season 3 or 4, and maybe get inspired by another canon series that we've gotten since then. But I'm glad we got the movie we got. It's much more streamlined, even though that movie has its own issues with the story and stuff, but this is just all over the place. It would be cool to see Mentlar, Rails, and Tanker. Well, we did get somebody named Tankor in Beast Machines, but it would be cool to see those guys maybe get some actual canon stories, or maybe even some fan recreations, like I said earlier, in stop motion and stuff like that. But there's cool ideas. You could definitely tell that there was some stuff that they kept in the final film and later drafts, and they got inspired by to change up certain stuff. And I'm sure Hasbro had a hand in who died, because the new characters died here instead of the old characters, which we obviously know does not happen in the final film. So this is just insane. I'm glad you guys got to see my first reaction. I'm glad I didn't read all of this by myself before recording this video, because you guys got to see my genuine raw reaction of me just having a WTF moment reading practically this whole thing. It started off sort of smooth in the beginning. You could tell I was sort of vibing to it, but towards the middle of the first draft, I was just like, whoa. Okay, I could definitely see why changes were made, and this remains in history as just the first draft. But let me know down in the comments below what you think of this first draft of the 1986 film. And yeah, thank you guys for watching this video.
Congratulations, you have made it to the end of this video.